Okay, if you've been scrolling on Zillow every night, stop. Because it's the first home that you fall in love with. That could be the absolute worst thing to happen to your home search. Now, I know that was quite dramatic. I'm going to explain in just a second, but before I move forward in this video, my name's Taylor and I'm a local realtor serving communities in Northeast Arkansas, helping people buy and sell real estate. So if you're in the market, want some questions, or just want to talk to a professional in the area, send me a message. All my details are down below. So many people make the mistake. Hey, mom, dad, I'm going to shop for a home. What do? They tell you to get on Zillow and you start looking and trying to find houses, and all of a sudden you find yourself scrolling on Zillow at 2 a.m. and you don't even know what to look for, what price range, and you're looking at the estimated payment and you're saying, oh, I can afford that, but all to find out later on that is just furthest from the truth as ever before. And so before you make some costly mistakes in your home search journey, I want to help you with a few points. I tell people this before we ever even go look at properties to get pre-approved with a local lender. There's a plethora of reasons why we would do this. And it's not just to try to find your budget, but as a realtor, there's been so many times where we show somebody 10 houses before they ever even talk with the bank, all to find out that they just have too much debt and they can literally not buy a home for the next 2 years. And so to protect myself, to protect the other sellers in the real estate market that are trying to sell, we don't want to waste anyone's time. And I would imagine if you're watching this video, you probably don't want to waste your time either. And so this doesn't just help with budget. It really does help try to narrow down the process in the very beginning steps. When you start looking at homes online, there's so many factors to consider, like the condition of the property, the location of the property, the price of the property, and all of these things play a role when you start to get pre-approved, because this is determined based upon the type of loan that you get, and where the home is being bought will dictate what your options might be. Of course, the price range will vary because of your pre-approval. And so this allows us to save so much time and headache perhaps later on when you do find the right home, all to find out you can't afford it, or to be looking at homes that you aren't even going to buy because you could be affording something $100,000 more expensive and you didn't even know it. And plus, the Zillow estimate payments on there are very far off sometimes. What they're not taking in consideration is this property in a flood zone? What is the accurate insurance quote for this property specifically, and the annual taxes that go along with it? There's a lot of things that might go into consideration that you will find out during that pre-approval process, not to mention down payment options, closing costs, application fees, appraisal fees. All these things should be considered before you start scrolling at 2 a.m. on Zillow. All right, number 2 is important, and it's finding out your comfortable payment. I didn't say your approval payment. There's a big difference between what you get approved for and what you are comfortable with because of your budget that you can afford with a house payment. So many people will go out and get pre-approved for $300,000, and they go and overbite and they spend as much money as they can on that house, all to find out that utilities is still another $200 and something a month, and their taxes are on their insurance is going to double in 6 months from their car bill because they get in a wreck or whatever, and all of a sudden their budget becomes really tight, and this massive bill that you've now put upon your back is very taxing, and your home can easily go from being a blessing to a curse because you overbid in the beginning. I would rather live in a more affordable house that I can be comfortable with and still be able to go on as many date nights as I want to. And if the kids want something extra that they've worked hard for, I can afford to do that. And maybe I still want to be able to take a trip even though I am now a home owner. My home should not take away from my lifestyle. And if you shop responsibly and conservatively, this will not only allow your home to be a blessing, but it'll allow your life to be more enjoyable, or at least that's my opinion. You got to remember that I make more money depending upon how much the home is. And so if anyone would be contending that you buy more of a property, it would be your salesperson, right? But no, I want this home to be a blessing to you. And in a way, this home represents me, and I want to be a good representation for this home for years to come. And so I don't want you to get in it and be stressing out about bills 2 years from now because life had its curveballs thrown at you. I would rather you enjoy this for years to come and it be a blessing. Look, number 3, and this is important because so many people just automatically start zooming and scrolling on Zillow and they don't even know their must-haves. I remember when I started dating and whenever I was a young man, I had these lists of negotiables and non-negotiables. And then when me and my wife got married, we were house shopping and we literally had negotiables and non-negotiables. And the good buyers, the responsible ones, before they ever even start looking on the market, they start to imagine in their mind, hey, what do we want to live with every single day? And what do we not want to live without every single day? And what I mean by that is this could be anything. Some people only want bathtubs in their bathroom. And some people want a big walk-in closet in the master bath. And some people want a big backyard where some people only want a small backyard. Like, what are the things that are going to make your life the most enjoyable? And I tell people this, sometimes you do have to play this give and take game, and depending upon the market you're in, right? And so just keep that in the back of your mind. Like, it's not about getting all your bucket items checked your first home or your second necessarily. What's important is that you are being fair to yourself and balancing what good expectations are versus reality. The 4th point I want to make is understanding the true cost of buying a house. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great options out there to buy a house with $0 down and little to no money, but that doesn't mean there's not actual expenses associated. I can't tell you how many times I've been under contract with a buyer and they have the right to do their own home inspection and they don't understand that they are to be the ones to buy that home inspection, or when their lender comes to them and didn't explain that the appraisal cost money, therefore now they're having to pay another couple $100s at that point and they didn't even know about it. And so before we start scrolling on Zillow, let's explain and let's talk about some of these costs that are really associated with buying a house. It's not hidden fees, but some people don't communicate like they should up front. So you've got closing costs, you've got down payment. Now granted, there's a plethora of different loan options out there that make that vary. There are inspection fees, there are appraisal fees, there are moving expenses and utilities. And if your wife is anything like mine, you've got furniture to buy, and we do not need to be financing furniture before the closing because this is what terminates deals. You probably don't need to be financing furniture anyways. And my wife, thankfully, is a professional at shopping on Facebook Marketplace, and nearly half the furniture in our house has come from Facebook Marketplace at a fraction of the price. And so there's your little pro tip there. But my point is like there's a lot more expenses that can go into a real estate deal than maybe what you're thinking up front. This is why it's good to talk to a professional. That's why it's good to do what's called a buyer consultation, where we can discuss step 1 all the way to closing table when you have the keys handed to you and you are now officially a homeowner. And if you've been through this process before, you know just as well as I do, it looks different every time. And every realtor does stuff a little bit differently. And every state and city vary from way to way. And that's the beautiful part of real estate, but it's always good to start having conversations before you just start getting your hopes up on houses online. The 5th point I want to make is quit letting Zillow dictate your search. What happens is sometimes as people are scrolling on Zillow, they see a house and they have a really cool realtor that they would love to work with, but they see this big blue button on Zillow and it says request a tour. And so they click that button or they request information. Next thing you know, they've got 3 different realtors calling them because Zillow has taken that information and sold it to realtors to buy a lead. Now you've got 3 random agents calling you, begging you for business, trying to trick you into signing a contract, locking you into an agreement with them for the next 12 months. And now all of a sudden, the path of true home ownership, the right way, and to make this a blessing and not a curse, all of a sudden can be skewed depending upon who you work with. Because, and I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying this, but there are some bad realtors out there. There's bad people in every industry, and you would be fooled to think that every realtor just has your best interest in mind. Me and my partners and lenders and other professionals in the industry talk about this all the time, that there are so many people out there that are doing stuff that only benefit them and not their clients, which goes against their fiduciary duty. And so my point is before you click any buttons requesting some information, talk with the professional that you know and trust. If you have a family member that's sold real estate that you are really close with, that you can trust, reach out to them and tell them, hey, I've been glancing at Zillow, looking at some homes. Would you care to kind of point me in the right direction? Or if you're watching this video and you've been seeing my content for a while and say, hey, you know what? I'd love to buy a house in this area. I just don't know what to do. Send me a message. We're not just these used car dealers that when you pull on the lot, we swarm your vehicle. No, like we can help you months in advance before you ever even start looking for homes. And this sets you up for success later on. My last point is I would tell you to build a plan before you fall in love. So many people start scrolling online, Facebook, stuff like that, and they find a house and they fall in love. Their emotions get attached to it. They think, man, this is a sign from God that I've got to buy this house. But then to get into the nit and gritty, all to find out they can't find the house because it's 3 times more expensive than what they can afford. Now, you can choose to live in disappointment, or you can be a smart buyer and begin to prepare and let your preparation dictate your actions. So find out what your budget is. Find out what the game plan is when you do find a home, or how can you have access to homes that maybe not everyone is seeing. And if you want a list of homes that people don't see, there are strategies to find them. You've got to be working with the right realtor. That's a whole nother video for another day. But my point is then you exercise or take advantage of those opportunities now that you are prepared. We don't find a home and then try to get prepared. We get prepared and then we go try to find the home. So look, before you keep scrolling on social media or Zillow or Realtor.com, before you make some of these costly and maybe some emotionally draining decisions, I would recommend you reach out to a local realtor. And of course, if you don't have one in Northeast Arkansas, hello, my name is Taylor. I've been talking this entire time. You should know me by now. No, for real, we love helping first-time home buyers and even buyers that have done it before, but maybe it's been years ago and maybe it's just been a while and you need some advice on maybe what to do in your specific scenario, or want to just see what all your options are. Feel free, send me a message. All my details are down below. We can actually book a one-on-one call where we can discuss a tailored approach for your situation. Again, my name is Taylor Kiefner with Keller Realty here in Northeast Arkansas. Thanks for watching. If y'all liked it, leave a like, subscribe for more videos like this, and we'll see you in the next video.